South Sudan's Minister of Information is accusing the United States of interfering in its internal affairs by trying to influence the outcome of ongoing peace negotiations. Michael Makwai was reacting to an executive order issued Thursday by President Barack Obama, paving the way for U.S. sanctions on anyone threatening the stability of South Sudan. For more on this story, we are joined in the studio by VOA's Dan Joseph. Dan, welcome.
Thank you.
Now, first, to make it very clear, the president did not announce sanctions.
No, he didn't. What the president did was issue an executive order authorizing sanctions against individuals in South Sudan who are threatening the peace there or possibly causing human rights abuses, threatening UN peacekeepers, doing those sorts of things that could threaten the country's stability and security.
So for our viewers, this is more like a warning. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. It doesn't have to happen. That's right. Yeah.
Right. His executive order and the White House statement made no mention of any individuals or companies or anyone who would allegedly be doing this. It did. The statement from the White House did make a point of mentioning both the government of South Sudan and the rebels, not singling anyone out by name, but mentioning both sides very even-handedly.
Yeah. So in other words, it's not saying, okay, we're looking back to see who was messing up yesterday or the day before, but it's like, henceforth, we're going to be watching. And if anybody's going to be messing up with the process, you will come down on the list.
That's exactly what the White House is doing. Just looking forward. It's a warning. Whatever you've done so far, we're not going to necessarily sanction that, but if something happens from this point on, look out.
Okay. Now, what typically happens is we expect a time like this, perhaps someone somewhere starts putting down a list of names of characters that might be considered for that.
The State Department or the White House, they could be compiling such a list.
What kind of sanctions could be anticipated?
Well, what the executive order specifically mentioned was economic sanctions. It could be an asset freeze or seizing assets. Basically, if any assets that any South Sudanese individual would have in U.S. jurisdiction anywhere, those assets could basically be frozen in place, non-transferable, and that would be the penalty.
In few words, we can say it looks like the U.S. means well for everybody in this kind of process, isn't it?
It's very even-handed. They are not trying to single out the government of South Sudan or the rebels or anyone who's supporting them. They're just saying, we want peace in South Sudan. We want this conflict to stop, and we want the two sides to get serious about the negotiations in Addis Ababa, which have not been moving forward at all.
Well, Dan, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Well, Dan Joseph is a Voice of America editor here in the newsroom. Thanks a lot for joining us today.